And motion to continue? Motion to continue, please. Councillor Suffrey and Tom, all in favor?
Yep, thank you.
Contrary? Carried. Thank you very much. Councillor Thompson, you want to move item 5 forward? We didn't do that. 4, I'm sorry. We're moving item 4 forward? Councillor Tom? Did we? I thought we just moved 3.
3 and 4.
3 and 4, okay.
3 and 4 were moved.
Item, and council with, we also had this part of the package which was handed out this morning. If you could put that in tab 4. Mr. Nader Rosner, do you have any comments on this? You want to start off and then I can open it for questions from council?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. Again, what was already in the binder is told, a format that council is used to seeing, and what we handed out this morning is a little more information and sort of a stoplight analysis of the departmental objectives and where they are. There's also a section for comments, so it's just another format of reporting for council's benefit.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. I guess it's the retailer in me. I like doing year-over-year comparisons, and so again, looking back at the 2016 budget documents we got and the summary of strategic plan initiatives there, I like to compare them, and so I do like the additional information that's presented to us in terms of what's been completed, what's been abandoned, what's in progress. However, in some cases, I'd still appreciate some more information. I did note that there's a couple items in the 2016 budget summary of strategic plan initiatives that were not addressed in here, specifically the BIA and some other ones. And so I would like staff to take a second look at this to make sure that anything that was identified in 2016 at least comes back to us and has a little bit of a comment about the status and where it's at. And also in some of these cases, if you look at them, I'm not sure really what's meant by in progress. I'll take example, the one Councillor Abel brings up a lot is the public art policy. So in our 2016 strategic plan initiatives, it was identified as a Q2 completion date. It's still in our 2017 objectives, and really, I don't honestly remember working on anything in this calendar year specific to the public art policy. So, if it just got deferred to the 2017, I just think there should be more comment than just in progress. And there's some other ones as well. And I don't want to spend all time going through it, but I'd like staff to take another look at it, compare it year over year, and add some additional comments where appropriate.
Are there any further questions in this item, or should we just refer it back to staff and then refer this back to staff for verification, validation, and then bring it back for future discussion? Councillor Thompson, you move that, please, to refer it back. Councillor Gardner, second. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And certainly, Council, if there's any specifics that you see that you would like addressed in something like this, maybe just drop a quick note to Mr. Nader Rosny so he's got that information. Thank you. We'll now move to tab 6. Mr. Simonovskis. We're going to start with communication? Oh, okay. That was just following the...
Mr. Chair, just as we're sorting that out, I have a little update, follow-up to an information request earlier in the discussion was the comparative of the administrative costs as a percent of spend, comparing them to other municipalities. I'm just going to pop this up on the slide. Wait for it. It's a little dark, but you can see that Aurora on the far left relative to the other jurisdictions here in the York region. So just thought I'd close the loop on that outstanding question.
Councillor Abel?
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. So the percentage of our total spend, again, what is our total spend? Total operating, total capital, or?
That's of the total operating budget.
Thank you.
And just to confirm, this comes from the BMA study? But it's part of the BMA study, it just looks like that.
Sorry. No, we did, no, it did not come from the BMA study. It came straight from the MP. Came from the MP data. I'm looking at Laura. Laura put this together for us.
Perfect, appreciate it, Laura. It just looked like it had a footnote saying BMA study on the bottom of this paper.
We might have used the same slide template.
That's what I'm thinking. But that's great. I appreciate staff taking the time to do that information, and I think, you know, that's reflective of being efficient.
It's important to note, though, that the MPMP program from the province is being cycled down, actually, because it's not completely comparable, and so the reporting metrics are being pared down, and they're trying to lighten the administrative load on municipalities.
And I appreciate, you know, I always think it's good, in one hand, to have a comparator to other York Region municipalities, but at the same time, you know, as I mentioned, it's good to see the trend line. So, you know, you look back at that figure from, let's say, 2010, 2011, 2012, how are we trending? Is it staying flat? Is it, you know, a minor increase, decrease, or is it significant? So, you know, still would like to see that as a trend line.
Thanks, Mr. Elliott. We will move to corporate communications. Stephanie.
Perfect. I apologize, I'm used to wandering when I do public speaking, so I'm still trying to get used to standing behind a podium and not wandering away from the microphone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. So we're just going to quickly start off with an overview of the department functions for corporate communications. So you'll notice a couple of changes from previous years. Strategic Communications Services is one of our areas, as well as community engagement support. So as we talked about at the last GC presentation, communications is really taking a lead on community engagement and providing support to council and to staff on that area, which is a big difference from previous years. One of the other areas we look after is issues and reputation management, marketing, promotional, and advertising services, as well as media relations and digital strategy and service delivery. So that latter one is changing a little bit from what we used to look after. So it's not really just the internet and the website and our intranet. We're really looking at how we can use digital tools to engage our citizens, to create really transparent and accountable processes, and really change the way we do business. So that is a huge priority for us in our department. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. But again, a lot of the things that I am going to be bringing up, you all did hear about in my presentation the other week. So 2016 successes. So over the last several months, we've implemented some media and social media reporting tools, which are giving us a lot better idea of some trends that are happening, where we need to be spending our time, where we don't need to be spending our time in terms of messaging, and really getting a feel for what our citizens are engaging with, what kind of content they like, and really helping us work better on crafting better messaging. So we've developed a larger, more robust media distribution list, and so we've utilized that for the first time for Central York Fire Service for an event that we had. I know Councillor Humphreys was at that event, and we're definitely seeing that it is a very valuable tool for us. We were able to reach a lot more media outlets than we had been in the past, which was something that we had done traditionally through manually entering reporters' contact information into a spreadsheet. And this system actually allows us to search for reporters in specific beats and kind of engage with them on a much more real-time basis. We've significantly increased our social media content and our online engagement, particularly in the fourth quarter of this year. Many of you have probably noticed, particularly over the last several weeks and couple of months. Sorry, I'm coming down with a cold, so my throat keeps coming in, my voice keeps coming in and out. but we are definitely increasing our content there. We launched a new internal newsletter, so that's definitely a success for us. We've received some really fabulous feedback from our internal staff as well. And really what that's about is helping us get to know each other, helping us to get to know each other's area of expertise so that we can really leverage each other's skills and experiences. But it's also about really building our sense of team and our sense of staff spirit. So we've also made significant improvements to the homepage, which to aurora.ca, which many of you saw the previous week when I presented, and that will be going live in the next few weeks. We also introduced the CAO blog, which really allows our CAO to communicate with our staff and share some of the goings-on, as well as some of our kind of strategic things that we're doing. And I think that really is helping people feel more in tune with the executive leadership team and with the CAO to see where our priorities are as a team. And also, again, it is about that kind of team spirit and making sure that we're all on the same page and moving in the same direction. So external communications assessment was conducted. And another change that we've had in 2016, which I would consider a success for us, is we're now providing media and communication support to Central York Fire Service for Aurora-based incidents and events. And previously that was handled by the Town of Newmarket's Corporate Communications Department. And we really feel strongly that incidents that are involving our residents and our community should be communicated through our expertise and the people that know the community the best. So we've taken on a leadership role with that. And I think so far it's proven to be very successful. We definitely saw that with the gas leak as we live tweeted through that experience. And again, with the most recent press conference that we did for Central York Fire, where we had a student at St. Max who unfortunately had a medical incident, and fire was able to respond and really save his life, and we were able to really showcase that in the media as well. So some of the challenges that we're facing, increasing communications demands from internal and external stakeholders. So there's definitely an increasing expectation for timely and relevant updates on events and incidents that are happening in our area, as well as the social media effect. So we're, think that everything happens in real time on social media, so we need to be adapting to that as well. Evolving media market, so that's definitely a challenge that we face in communications. There's definitely fewer media outlets out there. There's more competition than ever before for airtime and print space. And there's a huge change and shift, again, from traditional media to digital media. That technology is really, so managing changes to technologies and tools is another challenge that we're facing. So, technology is always evolving. Things like mobile responsive websites, mobile apps, and keeping up, with that unlimited resources is definitely a challenge. And an additional challenge is the changing demographics of our community. So we've been addressing that through adding Google Translate to our website. So that's going to be going live later this year as well, which we're really excited about. So that will allow residents where English isn't their first language to be able to access information on our website. And as well as our plain language policy as well, which I think we're going to be implementing, and which will hopefully address some of those needs as well by really talking to residents in simple language and letting them know how this actually affects them. So that we're kind of going to remove some of that complex language of government that is really familiar to us inside this building, but maybe not so familiar to people outside the building, so that they can become more engaged in the process of government. So limited staffing and financial resources. Communications, the budget has not grown significantly in previous years. And like I said, we've identified a need to spend funds on new technologies and tools that will allow us to save staff time and increase efficiencies and really allow us to be a lot more proactive in the communications area. So things like social media monitoring subscriptions that we've been able to use to identify trends and what's working and what isn't. Media monitoring tools, so we can monitor media mentions, tone, identify even right down to what media releases get opened and who they get opened by, which really helps us develop messaging that we know is going to engage more media. And it's about building those more robust media lists. So we really want to increase exposure in areas around business development as well as sports, culture, and recreation. So those tools are really helping us address some of those challenges. As well, the text alert, so we're going to be going live with that in the next couple of weeks, which will be using the text alert system for the winter overnight parking. So residents are going to be able to sign up to receive notices when we've called a snow event, and therefore hopefully increase the number of people reached so they know to get their car off the road. So we're also looking at things like the possibility of doing online advertising for things like town services like Club Aurora, so that we can try and increase some revenue in that area as well. And really working, I think, some of the challenges that we've had in the past, I think we're really able to overcome them by working together as an ELT to be able to identify some of those areas where I can maybe support and our team can support some of the other areas better. And that is particularly true with Mr. Downey's area, where we can really help them in terms of generating that revenue and supporting their needs moving forward as well. So the final bullet as well, you'll notice that there is a conversion in the business case from a contract position to a full-time position. So for the last 3 years, we've had a contract position in corporate communications, and what we're asking is to convert that to a full-time position and to, really to engage a skilled full-time professional to help us manage some of those digital communications efforts, as well as contribute to our community engagement and outreach efforts moving forward. So our 2017 objectives, they're fairly lofty, as many of you again heard before. So we are going to be conducting a comprehensive communications review and developing a communications and community engagement strategy, which includes media relations plan, website improvement plan, crisis communications plan, social media strategy, internal communications plan, and a marketing and advertising plan. We're going to be introducing the plain language policy. We're going to significantly improve the website experience. So again, that's an item that we previously, the way budgeting worked for the website was that every 3 to 5 years, there was a one-time spend on our website. And what I'm trying to do is do a one-time spend, but recognize that as technology evolves and the needs of our citizens evolve, we want to be able to put money towards that on a yearly basis, so we can make sure that we're continuing to keep up with demands and the technologies that are available, so we can really maximize the engagement with our residents. So we're also looking at the lean process review and looking at realignment of existing resources, using technology to reduce the time spent on tasks that could be automated, things like that social media monitoring reporting, trying to, using tools to be able to assess our earned media value, as opposed to having to try and manually figure those things out. We're also trying to identify areas of overproduction. So are there things that we're doing that we maybe don't need to be doing? And one of the things that we're also doing is having staff outline the tasks that they're doing each day throughout different times of the year, and it's pretty comprehensive, and it is an onerous task for them. But really, what I'm trying to do is identify some areas where maybe we can identify some efficiencies, where maybe people are doing things that they don't necessarily need to be doing that somebody else could be doing, and making sure that everyone's working within their skill set and their area of expertise, and really maximizing their skills and experience, as opposed to kind of parceling things out piecemeal. So what we want to look at, what processes we're going to review, what we hope to accomplish, and who's going to be involved in that, and identifying those key players, and doing a lot of process mapping. So that's really definitely one of our objectives. How does this work? How does this not work? And we want to work together to identify steps and processes that can be improved or eliminated. And future mapping, what do we want to be doing, and where are we going in the future? And of course, we want to continue to review and assess our efforts and make sure that we are spending time where we need to be spending it. That's it.
Thanks, Stephanie. May I have a motion first to receive Stephanie's presentation? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Kim, comments or questions for Stephanie, please? Councillor Gardner. Councillor Dawn.
Just as a follow-up to something that was in the communications report about the winter driving restrictions, how much is this text ability going to cost us?
Right now, through you, Mr. Chair, right now, the initial pilot that we're looking at is going to be about $1,200.
And that translates into, if we use it yearly?
It translates to about 5,000 text messages.
I'm looking at cost.
Sorry?
And cost-wise?
It's $1,200.
for the whole year?
Yep.
Great.
Councillor Tom?
Thank you, Mayor Daw. And apologies, I might have been drifting out a little bit, but when you were speaking to the slide that talked about changing demographics, you mentioned that our website's going to be translated into different languages or something. Can you, so I kind of missed half of what you said. Could you just expand on that? And just
Sure,
explain
yeah,
to me?
no, I know that was at one of the presentations at GC that unfortunately you weren't there for, so.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely let me expand on that. So that's actually a Google Translate tool that we're gonna be adding to our website, and basically what that allows is it's a widget essentially on each page of the website, and there's a drop-down menu on it which will allow users to select their language of preference, and it actually automatically translates the text on that page into the language of their preference.
Is there a cost to that?
There is,
What's the cost?
$450.
$450. That's not very much.
No.
Okay. I guess because I guess right now with most with Google, if you use Google Chrome, you can translate most pages yourself.
Yes.
I guess my only comment would be that, typically when, and I'm not an immigrant, so I don't know the experiences, and I don't claim to speak for them, but I know that most language experts will say that the easiest way to integrate into it and learn a new language is immersion, and so I just wonder why. I mean, I know it might make it easier, but perhaps it might not actually make integration easier as a whole, as a long-term goal.
For sure.
I mean, when I moved to Quebec, I was spoken to only in French, and I can tell you I learned a lot more that way than if I had everything presented to me in English. So that's my only comment on that. But it doesn't seem to be costing that much money, so if that's all it will cost, then I really don't have any problems with it, I guess.
Councillor Thompson, Councillor Humphries.
Thank you for your presentation, Stephanie. I think, certainly when you presented to the General Committee, everybody was very enthusiastic about your plans going forward. But since this is the budget process, we'll talk really about, I think communications budget is roughly a little bit more than $700,000 when you include staff and projects and everything. And I know for myself, every time we get to the budget process, the challenge for me is, I want to understand the value that we're getting out of the different initiatives that we do from a communication perspective. And I know that you've touched a little bit on it in your 2017 objectives, the lean process review, and some of the reviews and engagements you're going to do. But, what specifically else are you going to look at this year so that next year at budget time you can provide us with a little bit more information or data so that we have more of a comfort level that the money we're spending on the various initiatives, we're actually getting, using a marketing term, bang for our buck?
For sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it is always extremely difficult in terms of communications, particularly in the municipal sector, to actually demonstrate value in a lot of ways, because we're not selling a product. So we're not able to say we spent this much money on advertising and therefore we generated this much revenue. But there are things that we can measure. And so some of the things that we are going to be looking at is that earned media value. So looking at how much money we're spending on some of those tools to increase our media exposure, and how much earned media value we're actually generating from that. So amount of money that we may spend on advertising and promoting specific programs, that we are actually now not having to spend that money, but we're able to get that back in earned media value. So that, as well as media sentiment, is something that we are looking at as well, which is really generally a good predictor in terms of traditional media as well as social media analysis, to really determine what the sentiment is of the people that are engaging with us and are utilizing our services and live in the town. So we're able to kind of determine whether or not they're having a positive experience, negative experience, or a neutral experience. And obviously a lot of those social media metrics as well are really critical to helping us understand how many more people that we're engaging, and the amount of time and money that we spend on that. One of the things that we really look at is the number of unique people that we're engaging. So I think one of the traps that is very common in social media is that people tend to engage the same people over and over again. And so one of the metrics that we really want to look at is making sure that we're engaging more people, newer people, different people, so that we're not continually having the same conversations with the same people. We also want to keep doing continual surveys and analysis with our residents to make sure that we're seeing, are they getting the information that we're sending out, what are their preferences, and being able to meet their needs that way. So ongoing surveys, and that community outreach as well. So we do intend on attending a lot of public events and getting out into the community, talking to people, finding out what they want, and making sure that we're getting a really good cross-section of our community so that we're not just listening to, necessarily the loudest voices, but we're listening to as many voices as we possibly can. So we will be looking at metrics like that as well in terms of how many people we actually reached and their satisfaction level with our communications products.
Great. I look forward to seeing some of those results throughout the year.
Councillor Humphries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm always so happy to hear your plans because it's just, I keep saying it, I said it last, it's very refreshing. I love that your team's here. You obviously are a team, and that's, you can see success already. Just a couple of things I have. First thing, you mentioned, marketing, in terms of pushing out text messages. I think that's fantastic in terms of, maybe start off, if you're going to, text message for, hey, get your car off the road, bad weather tonight. But perhaps even further than that is, garbage pickup's delayed today, or hey, don't forget, holiday, your new garbage day is the next day. So this is what I love about communication. You can never, I believe, you can never over-communicate. So if there's different ways that you're looking to engage the public and get out there, is fantastic. I love text. Text is quick. Everybody, most people have a text. Even my husband, who has a flip phone, gets texts on his flip phone. I don't think they make them anymore, but he reads the text. So I think it's just amazing how you're already looking at that type of engagement. Hey, don't forget to vote. I could just see this growing and growing and growing. And I think with a strong marketing campaign to ask everyone to sign up to get a text, you know what? They can always say, block. I don't want it anymore if they don't. So I love that. I'm so happy to hear that. Google Translate, I understand where Councillor Thompson coming from. I think from an initial perspective with the changing demographics, maybe it's more welcoming, so I like that idea. And eventually see where it goes, and if we ever need it, maybe take it off if we don't. But it's a nice thing to have, and it's not expensive. The Lean program, are you a Lean trained person, or do you have Lean? Sorry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I am not. I am actually allowing Mr. Simonovskis to mentor me of sorts on the process, and kind of relying on his expertise and his knowledge in the area to guide me through it as well.
Awesome. That's really great because you will learn a lot, and to your team, they'll probably know what they're doing, that they don't really feel it's something we have to keep repeating, maybe do different things, and maybe get economies of scale. That way, I love the Lean process does work. Happy to hear that we have that. And I could talk about a bunch of things. I'll meet with you separately. I love where you're going. I'm looking forward to seeing results. I think it's tough because really this is the first year that we're probably, from my perspective, I could be wrong, but measuring our communication success. So I think once you start building your baseline, then you could build year over year and see where we need to improve. And one thing hit as you were talking and Councillor Thompson's comments as well, maybe we develop something called, we have this in the business world, outside of municipal government, is, voice of the client. So why don't we do voice of the resident surveys instead of just on a particular event, but maybe do it overall once a year, voice of the resident. And, maybe expensive, maybe not, monkey survey, I don't know, but let's hear from those residents. Are we doing a good job in communication? Where can we improve? So maybe there's something there, and I think the way you're already looking at pushing out in communication, we're gonna be leading it. I really believe that. So thank you, and I'm just looking forward to some of the good work coming through that I've already seen.
Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The last, probably over the last few years, it's been social media and communication has really changed the way corporate communication is being run. A few years ago, just recently as a few years ago, it's all press releases that go one way. It's not interactive, no feedback. Now, I know you've only been here for, I'm not sure if it's been a year yet, but do we have a policies and procedures or best practices in terms of how we interact with residents or customers from social media or just an email perspective?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We are in the process of actually developing that as part of our social media strategy. I'm intimately familiar with the process from my time at the police service and developing those kind of mission statements and kind of or rules of operation, so to speak, for social media. And so we will definitely be developing that, recognizing that there is, social media, the whole purpose of it is there's a two-way conversation. We want to extend that, though, that two-way conversation from social media, not just, but into other digital platforms, but also into in-person communication as well through community engagement. So we do talk a lot about social media, and I think social media is really important, but I still think there's a lot to be said for the value of that, that kind of face-to-face interaction as well with residents. So we will be kind of looking at that as well as part of the communications strategy in terms of how we engage with citizens. And we for sure will be doing that with our social media presence as well, and establishing some of those rules as we move forward.
And yourself having a lot of history and experience in the communications, I'm not sure if it's any different in a municipal realm, but do you believe that communications should have an impact? Like, should our communication be able to change customer preferences, or is it more of a one-way communication tool stating the facts? Like, for instance, cultural precinct. If we have a rational idea as to what it should look like, do you believe that, from a corporate communication perspective, is there a way that we can use corporate communications to change customer preferences, or have them kind of see things from the sender's perspective?
I'm interested in that answer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Strangely, I am currently in the process of actually writing a paper on public consultations through the framework of something called procedural fairness. And so I actually do believe that communications can change personal preference, but I also think that engaging citizens in consultation and having that communication with them and making sure that it's transparent, but also that we demonstrate that we really are listening to what they have to say, that even if the end result isn't necessarily reflective of an individual's personal preference, people are more likely to be satisfied with the outcome if they've been part of that process and they feel that their voice was heard in the process. So I just think that that is so critical to communications. People do need to have their voice heard. That's why we're here, is to have those conversations with people. At the end of the day, you can't satisfy all people. Whatever decision we make is not going to be, the work of local government is unfortunately not made up of black and white decisions. So the challenge is that, people aren't always going to be satisfied. But I do think that, the goal is to present as much information as we can, be as transparent and as accountable in our processes as possible, and then, hopefully people will feel that they've had their voice heard and be more satisfied with the outcome.
Thank you. No, that's a great response. I mean, the reason why I asked that question is because communications is and media is a very powerful tool, and I think used in the right way, I think there should be more budget allotted to that realm. But if it's just a one-way communication and it just sprouts more questions than it does answer, then you kind of question, the value put on it and the money allotted to it. But if you're able to convey why education, even change preferences, you can, then it's very valuable. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the words transparent, accessible, accountable government have been mentioned many times at this table, and I think in our election speeches. And thank you, because in the short period of time that you've been here, and you held up some fingers, 4 months? Ish?
Yep. 3-ish, 4, yep.
It's certainly very encouraging what you're doing, and I think we will see a very positive response from the public.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
All in favor, receive, please. Contrary, that is carried. Mr. Simonoskas, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and members of Council. Infrastructure and Environmental Services provides the functions for the town of Aurora related to engineering and capital projects delivery. Facilities and Fleet Services, road network operations, which includes winter and summer operations, and solid waste and recycling. A new area of responsibility that we've assumed in 2016 as part of the reorganization that occurred this summer is our environmental and energy management component. These services have a net budget for 2017 of about $12.8 million. An additional budget item which will be presented to Council November 28th in our evening meeting is our water and wastewater operations budget, which is done under as a separate item, and it's generating its revenues from the rates of our water services. Our 2016 successes are listed in this following table and include our LED streetlight conversion project, our low impact development, or what's referred to as a LID project, which is part of our ACC parking lot feature. It may not be evident from a completed parking lot, but there is a significant amount of underground infrastructure to reduce the impacts to our environment and manage our stormwater to a standard that is actually being promoted quite heavily across North America, and for which the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority fully supports. We've also completed a number of significant road projects in 2016, including the Old Bloomington Road reconstruction, Catherine Avenue, which is in our northeast quadrant and is in a heritage district, which has received some favorable feedback from the community as to respecting the nature and character of that community. The Industrial Parkway intersection just south of Wellington, which provides for additional capacity and turning movement space for our GO train commuters, as well as the Vandorf Side Road reconstruction, which was a significant project for us in 2016 and began essentially with some stream and culvert construction in 2015. In addition, we have applied our lean process review for a number of projects or a number of responsibilities in 2016. The most significant being a collaborative effort with our finance committee or finance department, Mr. Elliott's department, relating to water metering and how we bill and manage our water meter replacement program, as well as doing some work with our winter operations staff and looking at our capital delivery processes. As well, in response to our training requirements for our operations staff, we've also developed a health and safety and technical training plan to move forward in 2017. Our challenges are fairly specific, not overly broad as far as our service deliveries. One of our major challenges, which has emerged in the last year and a half, is our interactions with Metrolinx as they move into our community to advance their program over the next 10 years. And through this challenge, we're looking at a significant amount of collaboration, both internally with our departments involved in traffic and parking management, as well as Metrolinx construction activities. And you'll be hearing more about the Metrolinx opportunities and challenges as they come to present to Council over the year in 2017. Right-sizing our operating budget was also a significant challenge, and this proposed package for 2017 includes a number of items which are intended to bring our budget in line with our cost pressures. The two of the significant areas that we've identified are our facilities, salaries, operating costs, as well as the electrical budget within that portfolio. We are seeing pressures in our capital delivery program in roads and facilities, and part of our budget request will involve additional staff. And as an outcome of one of our lean initiatives was to look at how we deliver a capital project and to create more specialized capital delivery services and move that program or that portfolio away from our frontline operations team to more of a focused capital delivery team. Again, the growing program is driving additional capital projects, which is resulting in some of that shift. We are also looking for a new facilities supervisor, an evening supervisor, to try to better align our staff availability and troubleshooting capacity during the evening and weekend programs when a lot of the demand is happening in those facilities. And another emerging pressure or challenge is to deal with the provincial climate change strategy, which is a provincially mandated plan to address climate change head-on. And there are a number of initiatives that the town can easily align with and we're looking to make some modifications to our environmental master plan to bring some alignment to those provincial initiatives and support our provincial targets. Our 2017 objectives include overseeing the Metrolinx activities, as I mentioned. We are also in the process of completing a facility asset condition assessment, and we will be doing that update to our 10-year capital plan once that assessment is completed. We had talked briefly about this during our capital program review, and really the intent here is to capture all assets that are moving through their life cycle so that we can adjust our 10-year plan accordingly and make sure that we're capturing the projects necessary to keep our assets in proper functioning condition. And if you recall, there was a $500,000 annual placeholder to allow for that delineation of specific projects once the asset condition assessment is completed. As well, we're looking forward to initiating a climate change adaptation and greenhouse gas reduction strategy, which again is in line with the provincial plan. It's something that we can quite easily metric and provide benchmarks around to show some advancement in that area. And we're looking forward to implementing some additional lean process review recommendations that came out of some of the work we did in 2016, including some adjustments to our winter maintenance program, our water billing and meter changeout, as I discussed earlier, some facility operation changes, as well as the Capri delivery alignment. And that concludes the IAS presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Simonauskas. Councilor, just before I ask for a motion to receive, I'm going under the presumption that we'll go through the presentations first and then go back into the departmental budgets, which is what we have done in the past. We're just confirming that that's what we're going to do. So first of all, a motion then to receive just the presentation. Councilors Gartner and Maracas, comments or questions for Mr. Simonauskas on the presentation? Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Simonauskas. Just going back to the challenges slide, you identify one of the challenges is the right sizing of the electricity budget. And I know, at least it seems to me, that, electricity keeps coming up year after year. I think there's been a few times that we've talked about utilities and so forth. And so is it of your opinion that once we right size it, that it will no longer be an issue going forward, that we have it under control? Or
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is the plan. There's two components of our electrical demands that we've seen historically. One is the cost for a street lighting program, and one is a facility cost. So we have adjusted our facility costs to target our actuals in recent years, and we've also reduced our LED or our street light costs to reflect the savings that we're anticipating as part of that program. So to your question, yes, we've looked at both of those, and the anticipation is that we will be on track for future years.
Councilor Humphries.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. That was a good presentation. And your lean train, that's awesome. That's good news. Just really quickly, under challenges, traffic, parking, transit, we're pretty familiar with all those. Do you see maybe perhaps working with communications in terms of how we're starting to see things evolve and sort of relief and pressures of that situation ongoing, and if there's a method in terms of how we get updated and then the public? Have you thought of how that would work?
Certainly through you, Mr. Mayor, there's a number of improvements that we made to our internal communication strategy with regards to traffic in particular, and of course with the motion to respond to revitalization of the TSAC committee and some ideas we have around that, which we'll bring forward to council as well. In particular, we've created a internal committee, which involves bylaw, communications, technical staff, to meet on a monthly basis and just review traffic, transportation, transit issues, and just have an awareness of what the pressures might be, and allow us an opportunity to bring those ideas or those issues to council earlier, or at least bring some recommended solutions or opportunities to make improvements on that front, as well as the implementation of TSAC once we're able to bring that forward. And I think more importantly, we're also meeting at a higher level, including the CAO, and we're having conference calls that include the CAO, planning, communications, and technical staff to discuss on a monthly basis with Metrolinx on their program, where their challenges are, what they're seeing happen in the community, so we at least have some foresight into their program as it unfolds for the town as well.
Awesome, that's great to hear. That's awesome. It's a great approach, having everyone together and tackle it together. That's perfect, thank you. And, I had something else here. Oh, quick, under challenges again, the need to align environmental initiatives with the provincial climate change program, plan. That sounds like, so do we have a plan started and we're going to be aligning to the provincial plan and then sort of share that with what we're doing to, our share to help with that problem?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the intent is to bring a plan through the Environmental Advisory Committee and make adjustments essentially to our plan to create some key performance indicators around the greenhouse gas initiatives and the benchmarks and targets that the province is pursuing and create that alignment. So it's not a significant overhaul of the plan, but more of a refocus to see how we can better align with the provincial objectives and push that needle a little further.
Perfect, great, thanks.
Councillor Marcus. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Tom, pardon me.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Simonoskis. Mr. Simonoskis, you mentioned about the implementation of the lean process, and I think that's great. I'm also curious, will your department also be looking at implementing a time and motion study for all the positions within your department?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, a time and motion study would be quite detailed for what kind of services we provide, because we're not like an assembly line type of an operation. But what we do within the lean review is we do look at time efforts for various tasks, and the focus is on how that effort results in value for the resident, for the customer of our municipality. So we do, in a sense, do time and motion, but not to the detail that you would expect, say, in an assembly line type of environment. It's more, how much time do we spend in this area? How many times do we do that activity? And is there a better way of then doing that activity to reduce the actual expected outcome?
And that's great. And I'm just wondering, is that type of information, are we available to get that information as far as councils, and so that we can take a look at that when it is developed? And maybe I don't know if you can answer this, Mr. Simonoskis, but maybe Mr. Naderazia, is this something that we're also going to be looking at implementing throughout all the departments as far as looking at time and motion? Maybe not to that extent fully, but the way Mr. Simonoskis describes it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have had discussions at the ELT table about embracing the lean philosophy and techniques throughout the organization. We haven't got a complete plan for that, but that will be part of the new year for sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. And on page, the successes page, Elmar, I just wanted to touch on the ACC parking lot. Do we have a status of the completion of that parking lot?
33, Mr. Mayor. So the parking space itself is available. The top course asphalt is planned for 2017. So from a completion perspective, the lot will not look complete until that top course asphalt is in place. And the reason for that is because of any movement or any failure of what's been put into place right now, we can then capture that under the warranty repair process for the project, and also results in a better finished product at the end of the day. So there will be some padding done to allow for some easier access to the property, and there's also some landscaping and other work that is being completed by the contractor at this point in time. So it is a bit of a moving target, but our goal is to ensure that the public can access the facility as safely and as conveniently as possible as the contractor completes that process. That has been a really challenging project from the perspective of trying to have a site under construction while trying to maintain facility access, and it has been a challenge.
Councillor Thompson, sorry.
Thank you. Just wanted to add another point. With regards to the 2017 objectives, and I really just want to leave this with a thought from Mr. Simonoskis, is, next year will be the first full year that we have been able to utilize, I'll call it the Joint Operations Center, but maybe it's the Aurora Operations Center now. I'm not sure where we settled on the name, but it will be our first full year. And there were many reasons why we moved forward with it, but one of it was for improved efficiencies, the elimination of duplications, and there was some talk about savings as well. And so, as we go through the process in 2017, I think it would be good information for all of council to get back to see how, the Operations Center has improved the efficiency of the organizations, because, it was a $20 million spend, and we'd like to see what kind of efficiencies came out of that.
Thank you, sir. If there's no other comments or questions about Mr. Simonoskis' presentation, all in favor of receipt, please. Contrary, that is carried. Thank you very much. Mr. Downey, sir. our second favorite department.
Good morning.
Got to leave your room to stretch.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to present our 2017 budget for the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services Department. Let me go to the clicker here. The department is broken into 5 functions. Administration function, which basically deals with master plans and grant disbursements. We work in concert with the Treasury Department in the application for grants. However, many of those grants, the disbursement of those are with the administration. Parks, open space, and trails. Main functions within that are parks and trail planning and design, construction and maintenance, horticulture, and arboriculture. Third function is recreation programming, community development. Within that, it's a very large portfolio. We have seniors programming, youth programming, children's programming, aquatics, fitness, and special events. Within our business support division, we're responsible for permits, registration, reception, accounts payable, audit control, customer service, and facility advertising and sponsorship. And finally, our cultural service division deals with the Aurora collection, cultural programming, exhibits, and archival research. 2016, we had many successes. Just some of them are the completion of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan review and update, and that was presented to Council early in the year for approval. We also developed the first sports plan and got Council approval on the very first sports plan. We did a presentation on the repurposing study of 5 town facilities, which is still ongoing in discussions with Council. We got approval for the Mavernack Park design. We had our first play day at the Leisure Complex this spring. Physical literacy for Aurora youth, that's the acronym for PLAY, and it's been very successful, and it is going to become an annual event within the department. Planning and execution of a multicultural festival, our very first multicultural festival, and you'll see that identified in the budget actually under the options page with regards to it being an event, an annual event within the municipality. We're also successful in getting 4 of our rinks sponsorship named, as well as the SARC pool. So very, very successful this year in our sponsorship program. We did a very successful, or were involved in very successful relocation of the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame to the SARC this year. And many of you came to the opening. It's extremely, it's an exciting project, and we're looking certainly at expanding it further within the SARC. There's also agreement to provide the first indoor tennis facility, the only indoor tennis facility at this point within Aurora, and that actually opened just last weekend. So it is up and operational at this point. Also, there was the completion of the Willow Farm Trail. That only took 20 years, but we finally got it done, and it is very, very well received, extremely well used, and a great asset to our trails network. And the Museum and Archives received federal funding for our online project. One of the things with our Cultural Service Division is we are actively working at trying to get as many grants and funding opportunities in order to provide the services that we would like to bring forward to the community. So some of the challenges, we did a FAC review, and it was a detailed review. It certainly it certainly identified a number of issues within the department with regard from a budgeting perspective. Certainly right sizing was one of those. You've heard the CAO speak of that. You've heard Director Simonosco speak of it. We were also affected by right sizing, and it is identified within our business plan. We also have some challenge in maintaining approved service levels regarding parks maintenance. The budget identifies a new staff member. It's on page 622 of your budget package. We are asking for additional staff in order to assist us within our parks maintenance. As the community grows, we have more and more needs for services or requests for services, and we need to make sure we keep our staff levels up in order to address those services. We have identified service levels or council-approved service levels. If you recall, last year we had presented a park service maintenance standards to council for approval. At that time, we did do our time and movement exercise. We did identify what activities we were performing, what amount of time it took, what kind of staff it took, how much it cost, and more importantly, what the results of those efforts were, and those identified our service levels. So those we've identified, and so we're now presenting in our budget issues that allow us, or excuse me, additions that allow us to continue to maintain those service levels. You also identify in the business plan, we're asking for additional funding for our spring service levels on our sports fields. If you recall, going back to the spring, a lot of discussion about our sports fields. We thought we should be addressing some of those concerns in our 2017 budget. The growth and development of our cultural program, you'll see that in section 5, primarily within your budget package. We've identified it as an option over and above the 3.1 that has been presented, and we are asking council to give some consideration. You heard a number of delegations with regards to our cultural programming this morning. We also have identified a summer student within that, and that's on page 6-24 of my business plan. Facility allocation and addressing greater demand for facilities. We continue to have demand for more facilities. We are now in discussions with the library with regards to the Magna and Lubavitch room and what's the future of those facility rooms. Certainly there'll be discussions when we look moving forward with the cultural precinct and the repurposing study and how that might address some of our facility allocation needs. We also are having a greater demand for these facilities, certainly at the leisure complex with the renovation of the leisure complex. And if you look on page 625 of our business plan, it's identified as a part-time funding for additional customer service representative at that desk. As Stephanie said in her presentation, we continue to try to deal with the changing demographic. We're getting more people who have English as a second language, and customer service is certainly one of our primary functions and focuses within the department, and we'd like to certainly continue to maintain that. We always have an issue with regards to balancing fiscal management and public access. We have a budget of about $9 million. However, we're a business. We're actually, Parks and Recreation is quite a large business. It's over $5 million of revenues brought in each year in order to offset that gross budget. And if you average that out, that's about $15,000 a day is brought in each and every day into the department. So fiscal management is an issue. We certainly identified a 1% increase in our program, in our costing of our programs. But we're also looking at introducing an assistance program, and I had presented that to our FAC committee. Programming for growth and changing demographics. We're looking certainly for an uplift in our special events with more programming going on in a growing community. You'll notice that on page 623 of our business plan. And with the bringing on of 2C, we are looking at trying to address more programming and how we deal with, as I say, that changing demographic. With regards to objectives, the objectives for 2017 are continue to advancement of our recommendations from our Parks and Recreation Master Plan and Sports Plan. Identify where those new facilities can go and if they should go, and ongoing program support for our sports plan. Public art policy. We have it identified within our 2017 objectives. You'll also notice it was in our 2016 objectives. Believe it or not, there's actually a draft done, but we haven't found, I want to make sure we have a review with our Parks and Recreation and Cultural Advisory Committee prior to making any presentation to Council. Implementation of recommendations coming out of our Cultural Master Plan. We want to look at finalizing the cultural map, but also start moving forward with discussions around the community with a cultural roundtable. Implementation of a 3-year plan for the Aurora Museum and Archives, and you'll identify that in option 5, sorry, in the options in tab 5 within the budget. Update and review of our departmental pricing policy, and once again, our Parks and Recreation and Cultural Advisory Committee have identified that as some work they would like to see happen in 2017. Review of our facility advertising and sponsorship program. As I said, that was quite a success, but we want to build on those successes, so we are going to do a review. How can we do even better than we already have? Detailed design and tendering of the wildlife park. It was mentioned earlier today. It's actually a $5 million park development, phasing over 5 years. and you would have seen that in the capital budget presentation. Detailed design and construction of Mavernack Park, that's ongoing, and we're hoping to have that completed. Commenced in the spring of 2017 and completed that year. And then ongoing discussions and negotiations regarding land acquisition for parkland purposes. That's something we do on an ongoing basis. Very important that we continue to look towards the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Downey. Motion to receive Mr. Downey's presentation, please. Councillors Thompson and Gartner, comments or questions for Mr. Downey on this presentation? Councillors Maracas and Gartner. Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, thank you for the presentation. One quick question. How many vacancies did you have this year that you had to refill? I'm just curious.
How many vacancies? I can't tell you. What I can tell you is I've been here 17 years, and there have been 5 days that I've been at full staff during that 17 years. So there's always seems to be a vacancy. There always seems to be something. But we continue to have vacancies. I'll say right now we're looking, we just filled 3, so I think we're down to 1 at this point.
Okay, but let's say for the year over 10, under 10?
This year, because we had some issues with regards to some maternity leaves and things like that, and we had some dominoes happen, we probably looked at around 10 recruitments.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Gartner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, under Department Functions, Community Development, is that specifically special events, or what else would that entail?
Through you, Mr. Chair. No, it's not only special events. It's developing programming that address the needs of the community. Whether that would be a special event, changing perhaps in some programming within our fitness or aquatics programming, offering alternative seniors programming. It goes throughout the department, but it's a response to requests that we get from the community, or things that we've identified other communities are doing and picking up some of those best practices.
Thank you. The reason I'm asking is because there is a recreational programming. Under Department Functions, it's recreational programming. So the other aspect of programming for community development, that would be also under just the general heading of programming.
It is, yes.
So other than that, the community development would be special events, or what else would it be?
Community development would be talking to the community, talking to our aquatics community, and asking what additional programming might we need. Do we have issues with people coming in and needing to learn how to swim? So do we need to change our adult programming? Things like we do our youth programming. As you know, we are continuing to develop our youth program now that we have dedicated space for youth. That program has continued to expand, and so we're looking for opportunities to do that. So it's not only with special events, but it is certainly with special events. The Multicultural Festival is a good example of that.
So continuing improvement in
always
programming. Thank you. Willow Farm is on here, and it has taken, I don't even know how many years to develop that trail. We do have something in our budget that suggests that we need to spend more money on the trail.
Yeah.
Certainly if we get it in the form of a grant. So with respect to the Willow Farm Trail now, is it completely usable for the public?
Through you, yes, the trail is completely usable. We are still awaiting approval from the region with regards to the parallel pathway along the sidewalk on Yonge Street. If you recall, so right now it goes out onto Yonge Street. We are still waiting for regional approval to allow us to take it off trail. If you recall, Mr. Warrenberg stood here and requested council to look at it at an off-road trail. So we will be developing that or building that, excuse me, once we receive regional approval. But for all intents and purposes, the trail is completely usable. And yes, we do have some items identified in our capital budget in order to look at some areas within the trails that need some work.
Thank you. Last question under objectives for 2017. The detailed design and tender prep for the wildlife park, when is that expected to happen? I'm not sure if you can answer that or Mr. Naderozny.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have had discussions with the Conservation Authority, we being the consultant that we've engaged, as well as staff, and senior management within the Conservation Authority. We are trying to get to a plan that the Conservation Authority will look at and ultimately approve. We had some discussions about some of the initiatives that Mr. Tomlinson would like to see implemented in the plan, and we're looking for a position from the Conservation Authority as to whether or not they're going to permit it. It looks like not. Mr. Tomlinson's plan wants online ponds. They are not supportive of online ponds. However, I believe that we can present an alternative that will do much the same, or have much the same effect as the online ponds. And so we are actively working to get a plan that, once it is presented to the Conservation Authority, has a good chance of being approved.
Thank you. And when does council get to see that plan? Through Mr. Mayor.
I haven't got timing of when a council presentation is going to be done, but I can certainly ask staff of what the timetable is with the consultants and find out where we are in further discussions with the Conservation Authority. I know we just received a letter last month clearly identifying their position. One of the complications here was we wanted it in writing what their position was with regards to online ponds and some of the elements within Mr. Tomlinson's plan, to ensure that we address those concerns and that they were presented to us in writing.
Thank you. And we do have a consultant in place now?
We do.
Thank you.
Councillor Humphries.
I thank you. Thank you so much, Al. You did a great job. Busy year. Lots of successes. Lots of work. Just a couple quick questions. The Museum Archives received federal funding for online project, which I think is exciting. It's only 1 year, right?
Correct.
So that's why we're asking for ongoing.
Correct.
Okay, good. I love
Through
it.
you, Mr. Mayor. Correct. Sorry.
Correct, twice, wow. That's good, no, excellent, I'm excited about that. Under objectives for this year, the implementation of the Aurora Museum and Archives, it's really important for me that we focus on that, and for me personally, hopefully around the table, that we really put support around that and get that moving forward. We've done a lot, but we have a lot more to do. Our curator's done a great job, but need to help her get there. Sorry, there was one other question I had, sorry. Darn it. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to remember it during our discussion of the .5. Oh, I know, my apologies. I don't think it's mentioned in your presentation. One of the asks is going to be to support the 150th in the park this year, a recreation, I believe, of Canada's 150th in Town Park. Is that right?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. I believe it's in the options.
Yeah, and I think that's really exciting. I don't know if anyone's had any chance to speak with the curator on what's going to be done there. It's going to be really outstanding.
It's
so
a
I don't
cool
know,
project.
while we are going to be talking at it, Mr. Mayor, through the actual, when we start talking about the budget, if we can get maybe further details, explanations, if the curator doesn't mind speaking to it, if it's informal enough around the table, because it's really important that we understand what that vision is and how great it's going to be. I just, in terms of that day, I just wanted to highlight. I didn't see it in your objectives for next year, but I think it's going to be talked about in detail under the budget, because it's obviously going to cost money. Just a comment.
Well, actually, I have it as identified as
Oh,
part
do
of
you?
the 3-year plan, but it wasn't.
Oh,
But at
okay.
the time, it wasn't identified specifically within the 3-year plan. It was more generally referred to. But now that we can actually put some metrics to it and identify it a little bit better, we can actually put a cost associated with it, and that's why we have it presented in the 2017 budget. But as I say, it is being presented as an option.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm really, again, back to the online, I'm really excited. It's going to launch, I think, next year sometime, and it's just going to keep growing. It's going to be great for our community. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Downey? Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You had mentioned, Mr. Downey, the challenges, and you had done an FAC review. What is FAC?
Finance Advisory Committee.
Thank you very much. I had some other comments, but I guess we'll save it when we get to your department. But Could you just give us an idea of the accessible playground there in the Civic Square? Did we approve a budget, and is it being done, and the design, and where are we on that?
I'm trying to watch my words here, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind. We're having some issues with regards to that project, and we have identified those issues with our procurement and our solicitor, and so I won't say much beyond that. It is behind schedule, and we are not in the least bit happy about that. As you know, schedule is important to me, and so we wanted to make sure that it was going to be delivered on schedule. We are in communications with the contractor. They are providing us with an alternative schedule. They've already provided us one, which we rejected. We are now looking at some additional schedules that help address our needs, and we'll be able to then communicate that out to the residents. I've already had some people at the desk, at our customer service desk, asking what's going on. So we want to make sure we get that information out and we get accurate information out.
That's sort of what I'm asking. So we have a design, we did tender the project, we have it budgeted, and the work has begun.
It's a performance issue at this point.
So at this time, it's a performance issue. Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Downey, could you give me a quick update on the Mavernack Park project? I believe we were supposed to have an architect finalize, and give me an update on that, and if we're able to get a groundbreaking or start the initiating of the grading this year. Is that possible?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, work this year is not possible at this point. We do have the engagement of a consultant. They are working on the detailed design and specifications. However, no groundbreaking will take place until we actually have a contractor in place. We hope to be able to call a contractor or call a tender for the project through the winter months and commence construction and a groundbreaking ceremony if council desires in the spring of 2017.
And lastly, then, are we still on target for completion before the end of 2017?
Generally, we can get a neighborhood park done in a construction season, unless we run into an issue. But I don't see any issues at this particular point, and so that is our goal. That when we call the tender, that it'll be identified as a completion for 2017. I know the residents are anxious to get on those lands.
Councillor Humphreys?
Excuse me. Mr. Mayor, sort of, just to go back to the park, the Queen's Jubilee Park with the, do we know what the potential schedule, right now we're sort of trying to find out when it's going to be delivered, the new schedule. We're pleased with the first one, there's another one hopefully. Are we going to meet that time? I remember the one that we wanted to invite.
So, just to let you know, when the tender document was released, the completion date was Halloween, October 31st. So clearly we missed that date. So now we're looking for an alternative as to what is going to take place. And as I say, I'm trying to catch my words a little bit with regards to that. We've also sent a letter, or the corporation has sent a letter to Prince Harry, and asked that when he is here in September, I think he's here September 23rd to 26th for the Invictus Games, if there's an opportunity for him to take a side trip to Aurora and perhaps open up the park officially on behalf of the Queen. So we are working towards that. We got direction from council to certainly address that. So that has taken place. I don't believe we received an answer at this point, but that's the timing we're working at. We'd like to see the park done well before that, though, as you can appreciate. Kids are anxious. Once they see the playground, they want to get on it. So we'd certainly like to see this happen in the spring, completion in the spring. And if we then had an official opening with Prince Harry, then that would be fine.
Any other? Councillor Abel?
Thank you for bringing up that, the Invictus Games and the timing. Have we officially sent an invitation?
Yes, through the mayor's office, yes, we have.
Okay, thank you very much. And the Mavernack Park, council approved tendering for a design, I thought some months ago. Is that correct? And
Yes.
we said, and we were going to do the grading this year. And did you give us an explanation why we did not pursue the
Through-
grading at least this year?
through you, Mr. Mayor, we said we were going to do our very best. It wasn't possible to get the design and then get that completed, as well as tender documents completed and construction commenced. So we were not able to meet that timeline.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. Downey? All in favor of receipt then? Contrary? It's carried. Thank you. Councilor, we're just going to, I just saw the fire chief walk in. He's scheduled for 1 o'clock, but I'm just wondering if we might tag him now to do his presentation. And then we can break for lunch. Mr. Nader-Rosny is just going to go and ask him if he can track him down. Okay,
Sir?
Mr. Chief, I'm going to ask you, we're going to have just a quick presentation, part of Mr. Downey's presentation. Thanks, Mr. Fire Chief. Microphone, Shauna?
Is that better? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to introduce everyone to Bill Fleury, who is the great-grandson of Joseph Fleury, founder of Aurora Agricultural Works. He's in town today. We're working on an exhibition for next fall. It's called the Plow in the Crest, and it's about the Fleury family and their influence in that, and that's one of the budget items, is the second exhibition.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Ian, now the floor is yours, sir.
Well, thank you. You're going to give me one of those right off the bat, or how's the timing for today? I have 2 minutes.
We've
okay.
had this discussion before, haven't we?
Yeah, I didn't win that time either. 20. See, there you go. Okay, so I think everybody here knows me. I'm Ian Lang, Fire Chief for Central York Fire Services, and we are a consolidated fire service that provides seamless protection to the towns of Newmarket and Aurora. You guys all know this, so I can cut this a lot shorter if you've already read these slides. We have had a number of successes. In 2016, we did purchase a 4-acre parcel of property near St. John's and Bayview that in fact will house our new fire station. We have created an assistant deputy chief position and tasked that person with emergency management and training. So we all know the importance of training our staff, but we also know that we have a responsibility provincially to make sure that we're tested and trained on the emergency management protocols. So he's taken over that portfolio. We have, in fact, purchased a fire prevention public education trailer that also doubles as an emergency management trailer, and we can simulate a tornado when you're inside. It's one of 2 in Canada right now. So we had it at the open houses if you were able to attend either of the 2 open houses, and we look forward to really putting it into service this next coming year. So we've hired our first cohort, 4 firefighters. It's a 5-year program to bring on board 20 firefighters that will help us with our depth of service throughout the combined area for Central York. So each year for the next 4 years, we'll continue to hire an additional 4 firefighters over complement so that we are able to put that 7th truck in service with 20 staff total in approximately 2020. So, excuse me. We recently had a public event at Fire Station 44 on Wellington. One of the most tremendous successes, and what we're here for and what we try to do every day, is the protection of life. We celebrated with a family whose 13-year-old son went BSA at a local high school. We defibrillated him because fire was first on the scene. Patient care was taken over by EMS. The patient was transported and ended up at Sunnybrook and has made a complete recovery. And so we celebrated with the family and the crew of firefighters that were first on the scene. It was truly a good news story. Mayor Dahl was there in attendance and had some great words to say. It was a really emotional day. It really was. When you get the mother of a 13-year-old boy genuinely thanking you for being there. So one of the things that we push for in the fire service is simultaneous dispatch. One of our challenges, if you will, and I'm sorry, I'm already skipping ahead. One of our challenges is simultaneous dispatch. So in other words, if you call and you ask for an ambulance, it's handled by the Ministry of Health through what's called a CAC, Critical Ambulance Communications Center. That's in Georgian Dispatch Center up near Barrie. Barrie is part of a trial where 8 fire services in the province are getting simultaneous dispatch. We may be delayed 2 or 3 minutes. That may have made the difference in this incident. The call that we received was dropped by York Police. In other words, it's a term where they can actually key right into our dispatch center, Richmond Hill, and we got the call. We were there first. We did the administration of the defibrillation and revived the young man prior to EMS arriving. So that's the key thing if you're ever involved in discussions about simultaneous dispatch. It's paramount in saving lives. So again, with our successes, we talk a lot about fire prevention. So we have a Stay Fire Smart program. And each year, our fire crews are out there distributing public education material. So after 4 years, we visited over 36,000 residences in both Aurora and Newmarket. Now, we estimate at this point 44,000 residences, so we have another year, and then we're going to hit that target number, and then we're going to start over because people move. New people come into the areas. We need to make sure everybody's aware of what they need to do, what their responsibilities are. And while we talk about 6 minutes and 20 seconds, the best thing you can do is have proper working smoke alarms and CO alarms, practice getting out of your house, and get out before we get there. That's going to protect you, and it's going to protect your family. That's the best thing you can do. Some of our challenges, again, we're under negotiations for the 2016 calendar year and beyond. We are talking with JCC on design and construction of the new fire station. Obviously, there's budget pressures all the time. It's getting tougher and tougher, and we understand that fire services are, in fact, a heavy burden for the municipality. We understand that, and we're doing everything that we can to lighten that load. We We need to renovate Station 4-1. You know we've done Station 4-3 in Aurora, and we have done 4-2 in Newmarket. So now the plan is to renovate Station 4-1, which is in Gorham Street. And one of the issues that we're facing there is the space needs to be moved out of prior to the renovation beginning. So because we have decided to leave fire prevention in that building and not move them to the new facility, our plan currently is to see if we can lease space from the town of Newmarket in their town hall. The region used to lease space there, and they've moved out. So we're thinking if we could move our fire prevention staff and admin staff into that space, that would allow us to initiate the renovation at the station. So that would be a 1-year duration for fire prevention. However, fire administration would have to stay there until the new fire station is completed. Our task at all times is to meet the approved or strive to achieve the approved level of service. And you all have that in the copies of the master fire plan, and the JCC members have heard me a number of times talk about what's there and what we're trying to do and how well we're doing that type of work. So our objectives for next year, we are in fact still speaking with Richmond Hill Fire Services on a possible consolidation. There was a preliminary meeting at which the committee was urged to continue to look into things a little deeper. We will be speaking more with the architect at the JCC meeting coming up. He'll be delivering a block schematic of the new fire station, and we will be looking forward to JCC support to move forward on that. Again, settling the collective agreement, we're now 1 year behind as our contract expired at the end of 15. We have now developed a formalized training program for the captains and above within the fire service. So this was something that was a little more ad hoc previously, but now we've developed an officers training program, and we continue to educate our officers because they're leading the organization. Again, the renovations at 4-1, the big challenge with that again is budgetary, in that we did budget this capital funding 2 or 3 years ago, and as you know, prices have gone up considerably, so we are going to try to do it for the money that Newmarket has allocated to it. However, there may be some adjustments, but again, a renovation is under their control because the fire station is located in Newmarket, so that's a 100% Newmarket expense. And we continue to strive to teach staff to keep up with technological changes. We've just closed a tender for new self-contained breathing apparatus. That's the air tank that firefighters wear in their performance of their duties. So we've just taken on a new company, and we're looking forward for the delivery and training of staff and all of the great things that these new air packs will bring to us. And we are again working with the association on developing a health and wellness program, which will in fact monitor firefighters for a lot of the things that we are now discovering are covered under presumptive legislation. So cancers and cardiac events, the firefighters will be tested and monitored for that. It's a non-punitive program. In other words, they will be getting help if they need help or getting further testing. But this is something their normal family doctor can't order unless there's some history of it. So that's some of the things that we're trying to do to keep our workers healthy and keep them coming to work. And that looks like it, sir.
Thank you very much, Ian. Council, comments or questions? Jeff, Councillor Thompson. Sir. Okay. All right. 1, 2. Yep. Councillor Thompson? Councillor Abel, Councillor Gardner.
Chief Lang, always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, sir.
I just wanted to draw attention to, again, the 2 open houses, especially the one in Aurora. You know, I had the opportunity to attend it after the Salvation Army had their grand opening, and again, it's a fantastic event, and I like the fact that, you know, we have the little caboose that brings people from the SARC into the station, and I commend you and all your staff on putting it together. It's a great event, and I did mention it at GC recently, but again, congratulations on your 40 years of service.
Thank you, sir.
Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Chief. One of your objectives is the consolidation of Richmond Hill Fire Services. Also, one of your objectives is to undertake the new fire station. I would like your comment. Would we not just suspend the construction of that new station until we hear from what's going on with the fire services? Or would it be recommended, based on what you were talking about in response times, that we get that in place as quickly as possible? And even if we did join with Richmond Hill, we would still have to have that in place. So could you just sort of give me a comment on that, the balance of that sort of decision-making?
Certainly. Thank you. Thank you first for your question. I guess the whole thing about municipal fire protection, when you look at what we can do and how we can do it more efficiently, comes to the point where if a Newmarket and Aurora were still separate fire districts, they may or may not be properly protected because of the way they're growing. There probably would be an additional fire station in both of those municipalities. But because we've consolidated the fire service and made one big block out of it, I'm thinking the next step is the addition of the central fire station. So that would be able to respond to all four corners of either community much quicker and get the resources there. So this is more about depth of service. So regardless of moving forward with Richmond Hill, we have to protect the center, and we have to be able to get resources to the four corners as quickly as possible. What the consolidation with Richmond Hill really deals with is the southern boundary of Aurora versus the northern boundary of Richmond Hill. The fire station is required because it's much further north than that. So there could be some increased or decreased, I should say, response times to the south end of Aurora if in fact we had either automatic aid or a consolidation with Richmond Hill. But because of the configuration of a finalized municipality or fire service, I guess we're not talking about consolidating the municipalities, but a long skinny response area is still going to need the protection in the center away from the edges where we would be gathering that the assistance of the other fire services. And the Dillon report, which I believe is available online on the Richmond Hill website, does lay out, Dillon did our master fire plan, and it does lay out that we should move forward with a training facility, and it should complement the training facility in Richmond Hill because we have things that they currently don't have. So they should complement each other, but it's much more operationally effective to have a training center in the north and the south due to the configuration of the response area.
Councilor? Thank you very much. There's lots to be said about the training and development and all that, but I don't want to hold us back from our lunch, so I'll save that for another opportunity. Thank you very much.
Councilor Gardner.
Thank you. Welcome. I wasn't able to attend your success ceremony, as were many, many other people involved. Thank you to them for all of their hard work. It says on slide 2 that there are 44,000 households. Do you know how many of those are Aurora households?
I'm sorry, excuse me.
A little nice music?
That's the union calling me, sorry. Maybe they wanted to answer that question.
Maybe.
44,000 residences between the two communities. And the question was, I'm sorry?
In Aurora, how many do we have?
Oh, I don't
You
know
can
if
let
it's
us
on
know.
the notes part of the slide. Can we,
It's just a question for future information, if you wish.
yeah, and let me just see if I,
Mr. Elliott, how many you might be able to help? We've got what, about 20,000? 18?
18. Wow.
Okay, we'll go to Mr. Ramuno, about 18,000.
18,000 and 26,000, something like that. Kind of makes sense to me. Did that in my head.
Thank you. And we and we don't distinguish on the size of the household. We're just thank you. And the other thing for the public, would you just say briefly again what simultaneous dispatch is? And you use the word dropped. The police department dropped. Could you just make it very clear what that means? Thank you.
Certainly. Currently, if someone phones 911 and asks specifically for the ambulance service, the technology that's in place is the 911 operator can only have 3 parties on the line: the caller, themselves, and whoever the lead agency is for the incident. So if you call and ask for an ambulance, they stay on the line and they direct the call to the CAC, which is the Ambulance Communication Center. Because they monitor the call, they have the ability to drop the call. In other words, to not run it through the queue, but actually directly send the call to either the police department dispatch or to fire dispatch. In this incident, in this medical call, they dropped the call to Richmond Hill Fire, which does our dispatching. We were dispatched probably a minute or more sooner than we would have been had it gone through the CAC Center. We were relatively close to the incident. The crew responded and had already assessed, defibrillated, and revived the patient prior to EMS arrival. That's huge. I mean, you have regardless of the age, you have a person that has a very small window of opportunity for being revived. So everything that you can do to get the appropriate care to that person to do an intervening technique will help their odds to survive. So that is key for us. And I know that provincially they're doing a trial of 8 fire departments that are getting simultaneous dispatch. And while it's a trial, the CAC Center at Georgian is actually doing it for Barrie, and they handle all the ambulance dispatching down here as well. So it's just a matter in getting the technology in place, but anything that we can do to be there sooner to get the appropriate care will render more positive outcomes.
Thank you.
Well,
Councillor Humphries Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Lane. Seconds count. Councilor Gardner touched on what I was going to say. Seconds count, and your crew did save that young boy's life. They were there, before ambulance because of this process, and I'm just so thankful we have it. And that day during the presentations, I spoke to some of the firefighters that were first on scene, and one of them had 2 or 3 life-saving situations in the past 6 months. The young firefighter who was there for only 8 months, who was first to assist, I believe, or that was, he was there for 8 months and saved this young boy's life. So I just think it's amazing the services provided, and of course I'm biased, so I can only say so much and input so much, but I'm just proud of our fire department, and I just think the training that you're providing is incredible, and love to hear about, the packs are becoming even more powerful for them to use in terms of safety for the firefighters themselves. And I love that you're actually, this is personal maybe, that, the firefighters are going to be looked at from a health and well-being perspective. Excuse me. That, there's some tests to make sure that they remain healthy as well while they're doing the job that sometimes puts them in situations where, like we said, you guys are running in and we're running out, right? So I just want to say thank you. And there was something else I wanted to say, and I can't remember now. I'm doing that. That's the second time today.
It's an age thing.
I think it's an age. No, don't say that. Yes. The communications, we had our communications manager speak today, and the event at the fire hall with the mom and the son and everybody, I think was done really well. And I know that our communications department is helping with that now, and hopefully you're liking that type of support. But I thought it went really well that day as well. So just comments.
thank you. It's a team effort, not only on the front line, but certainly on making things work afterwards, and it was well done. Thank you.
I remembered. Sorry, through Mr. Mayor, really quick. So if you do amalgamate with Richmond Hill, are we staying Central York Fire Department? Don't change the name.
Yeah,
You probably can't answer that. I just.
Probably would be up to whoever decides, but one of the things when Aurora Newmarket consolidated was that it wouldn't be called either one. So we'll see what happens.
It would be the long, narrow strip up the middle of York Region
Would
Fire
be,
Services,
yeah,
wouldn't it?
I don't, I think we'd be open to a
Might be a little-
competition or something.
Might be a little awkward. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Dodd. We are in budget. And so this morning, it's been presentations from all the different departments, and this afternoon, we'll look at the departments, and there may be questions or discussions around certain line items, but Central York is different. It's unique in the sense that it's a shared service. So I thought perhaps you could take a moment just to talk about the budget process, especially for those that don't sit on JCC, that may not be familiar with the process, especially if other members of council may have questions or comments about certain line items. If you could just speak quickly to how the budget's developed and the process around changes or recommendations or queries.
Thank you, certainly.
And your point's well taken, Councillor, but this did come to, actually, this was passed last week. But just before I go to the chief, I'll just ask Mr. Nader-Rosny to speak to that, and then we'll indeed go to the chief. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, just to remind council, the minutes of the last JCC where the budget was presented were approved by council at the last council meeting. So in terms of the process, the minutes from that meeting will then go to Newmarket, and Newmarket will deliberate as part of their budget process, the finalization of the fire service.
Yeah. Chief, any comments?
As for the process, we sit down as the management team and with finance from both Newmarket and Aurora, and we develop the budget. The budget is then discussed with the JCC members, and as a group, the JCC members review, make their comments, make their cuts, do whatever they need to do to make it a palatable project or budget amount to come to Aurora. Aurora, because of the consolidation agreement, can question or ask or offer suggestions to the budget, but generally it goes back to Newmarket because they are considered the employer in this consolidation, and as such, they get the final approval of the actual fire department budget. It is a lengthy process, and I can tell you that the JCC members represent the town of Aurora well, because they make me jump through flaming hoops to get this thing through. And I appreciate their dedication to what they do to make it easier for us to present something to you that you will both understand easily and realize that the need for the budget that we're asking for. I can tell you this year we were asked to come in at a target, and we came in below that target. And we were rewarded with further cuts and, and additional expenses. So we understand, as I said earlier, that the fire service is an expensive service for any community to put out there. And we're all fighting for taxpayer dollars. So I understand completely what you need to do to make sure that the taxpayers for Aurora feel like they're getting a really good deal. We're doing the best we can, and we will continue to work hard and work with you to make sure we're putting forward a budget that covers our needs, but will also protect the community in a responsible manner. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Remember, no good deed shall go unpunished. If there's no further comments or questions, all in favor of receipt? Contrary, that's carried. Thank you very much, Chief. We appreciate you moving up your schedule.
Thank you, sir.
Council, if I can recommend, we recess now till 1:15 for lunch. Councillor Tom. Councillor Humphrey, second. All in favor? Contrary, that's carried. Thank you.